So good afternoon and welcome to Friday. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. We're wrapping up, a very intense week. And I am, though, very thrilled to have Will Allen, who I'm going to introduce in a moment. So I'm joined today by Jonathan Kirsting. He is Vice President of Visibility at the Tech Council and all things media. And just a few things about today's call. So first, I want to give a huge shout out to Huntington Bank. Huntington Bank has been a partner with us right from the onset. They've been pretty amazing partners, and they're pretty important in terms of small business loans, the largest lender in southwestern Pennsylvania. So we're really thrilled to have them as partners and leaders. And I also have a quick programming note. On Monday, we will be joined by Majestic Lane, Chief Equity Officer and Deputy Chief of Staff for the City of Pittsburgh, working with the mayor. And he's going to talk about some of the efforts to address equity and inclusion across the city. Tuesday, we have a small business owner named Samson McHugh from Waxing Cycles joining us to talk about the cycling phenomena. That cycling phenomena that's spreading across the country as people look to get more active. We'll also be joined by Karen Glodfelty from the Allegheny County Parks Foundation and talk about what they've been doing to keep the parks open and accessible. So we've muted your microphones, and only just to make sure that we're not hearing some noise in the background. And we want the call to be interactive. You'll have a chance to hopefully ask Will some questions. So I'm going to jump right in and just welcome Will Allen to the screen. And let me just tell you a couple of things. Let's just set the stage. Will has a really remarkable bio. Will is an investor. He's an active civic member of our community and actually the world, a former Pittsburgh Steeler and a staunch advocate for equality. You might not meet that many people like him in your life journey. He may be soft-spoken, but he's mighty, and he's very clear about what matters to him. He's very, very clear, and I respect that. On a personal level, I feel very privileged to know him and to seek his guidance on many things. But I really want to jump in. Like, given the events of the year 2020, Will's work has always had importance, but it's had particular importance right now, and he's always had the foresight to see what really matters in terms of business, in terms of leadership, in terms of equity, in terms of really seeking clarity on education. So that's enough, I think, to give you a little bit of a taste of Will the person, Will the leader, Will the human who's really driving a lot of things that many of you might not know about. So Will, come on, and we're unmuting you, we're welcoming you. And I want to, say that we are very excited about having you here. So talk about your foundation, okay? Talk about what you've been working on. So if you can unmute Will, we will start.
Uh-oh. There he is. All right.
Well, thank you so much, Audrey. I'm truly humbled by those words, and I don't know what else to say, but thank you. And how you think about me, I think the same way about you and your leadership and the person you are, and just how we've developed a really good relationship over the years has just been remarkable, and just how you've impressed on me and guided me and gave me great advice too. So the feeling's very, very mutual.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. About my foundation. I started the foundation because I've seen a gap in education where high school students weren't prepared for our life after high school. And I looked at myself because I was a 24-year-old NFL player with millions of dollars, but I didn't know how to manage it. I didn't know how to handle it. I had a college degree, and no one ever taught me about how to buy a house, how to rent, what was credit, what was taxes, what's accounting, what are accounting principles, any of these things, right? How to do a proper cover letter and resume, how to prepare for college. I went into Ohio State University, didn't know what to major in. My dad never went to college. Mom never went to college. And that's typical of, the Black community and athletes. So I said, well, why can't I use my resources and help people who come from where I come from? I'm an athlete. I have access. I have a platform. Let's get the best professionals and practitioners in place and get them in front of these young people and help them understand what life is about. So I started that when I was 24, and now here we are 2020, and now we're into robotics, AI, technology, and delivering those resources to the students in Clairton at Perry High School, some of the roughest areas that in our region, where kids don't have access. They don't know what their future is. They don't know about where technology is going. They don't know, but they use it every day. But they don't know how they participate in this space because of the lack of resources, because of lack of access and knowledge. So here I am, I'm 38 now. I didn't know about this when I was 24. I didn't know about this when I was 30. I mean, I would have invested in Google and Amazon at 34. 24. I would have invested at 24. You think about that, this was
look back.
This is 2006, I mean, if someone would have told me how powerful these companies and this technology world was, you say, oh, I'm into computers. I'm a computer science major. Oh, you're a geek. Get out of here. What is that? And now these folks are literally managing our lives as we speak. We're on Zoom, so why can't our Black kids and our lower income families and people have access to those resources and opportunities? And that's what we're doing now with the Will Allen Foundation. We partner with Carnegie Mellon Robotics Academy. We did a trainer program through Partner for Work, board I serve on. And it was a pilot program, and it went great. We had 17 of 22 students pass and get a micro certificate in electrical foundation. So they now can go and work if they wanted to in robotics technician and electrical foundation. So our goal is that they complete the entire modules, all the modules, and go on and work and participate in that field. So, and we did this down at Clairton High School, one of the poorest populations in the state and poorest educational systems in the state. But, that's what we want to do. That's where we want to go. We want to help people and bring light to some of these injustices and barriers that exist and tear them down, and bring Carnegie Mellon down to Clairton. Who's doing that?
Yeah, that's true. That's really true.
Who is thinking that way and wanting to be, I'm not trying to pat myself on my back, but that's the way that we have to think on the fringes and do new things and specific collaborations so that we can, level the playing field and bridge more gaps and stop using, excuses and barriers as a way not to put in the work.
So how did you shift? So how did you get yourself educated on all those things that are tied to business and tied to opportunity? Because you said that, you didn't know that much about any of these things, and yet, you had a little bit of affluence at an early age.
Yeah, no, I didn't know about any of this stuff growing up. I didn't know about it as a 20-year-old adult. I'll be honest, what really opened my eyes up, and even being here in 2010, in Pittsburgh, I didn't know what Carnegie Mellon was. A buddy of mine went to Carnegie Mellon football camp when I was in high school, and I was like, "Why are you going there? Like, let's go to Ohio State. Let's go to Michigan." But what turned it was a buddy of mine who's a managing partner at a fund of funds VC in LA. His name is Ryan Neese. We were former teammates, and he actually started a fund. It's called Next Play Capital, and it's just crazy. And what they do is they invest in Kleiner Perkins, Greylock, Google Venture, Sequoia, all the big names you can think of. They have a piece in Opportunity Bessemer. But he introduced me, right? He being around him and his exposure, he said, "Will, come out to one of our meetings. We're going to do a venture tour in LA." I got to see Hyperloop in its early stages, before they were doing anything. I got to see, all these cool technologies that we use today because of his access. And I said, wow, this is where the world is going. And then I start getting, and then I started, this was probably around 2014, 2013. And he also had a startup, you know, and this is the first time I'm really exposed. And this is 2013. I'm really exposed to a tech startup. And in 2013, that was 5 years ago, I was 32. I mean, no, that's bad math. I was 33. I was 33. So when you think about that, I'm like, that is a long way to get exposure to what technology really is. You know, 2011 and 12 and 13, you're like, you know, I'm getting exposed to this. Watching him build his company, watch him, you know, build his fund, and I knew this is where the world is going. And then I got really inspired by learning more and reading more, following people on Twitter that were into tech, and then I just got getting more introduced. And I said, well, why didn't I learn this when I was in high school? Why didn't I learn this at this point when I was in my early 20s? Like, why wasn't I exposed to this? How many more Black people, how many more people of color aren't? And why isn't that curve happening? So that switched me to wanting to be more engulfed and deeper into tech and tech investing and into the ecosystem. And I just started making investments. You know, getting exposed and getting access to great deal flow. So I became an angel investor. And once you start doing that, your name gets circulated, and you know, people want to know how, and they want to learn from you. And you know, you win some and you lose some. So and then I, you know, being around Ryan and, you know, getting education from him, but also the ecosystem of partners he had access to, getting education from those people. And building my own thesis and understanding how I like to invest and what aligns with me, really helped transform my mind and how I got into investing, how I got into tech, how I got into real estate. So,
well, you know, it's interesting because you spin quite a few plates, right? So you're on the board of Partner for Works. You're also engaged with Carnegie Library. You're involved in tech. You're on the board of the Tech Council. You care about kids. So how do you manage all these plates?
They all have a alignment. You know, they all are different entities and different groups. But I mean, to be honest, it's very strategic, and there are relationships there initially. I'm not just tapped to sit on the board because I want to put a notch on my resume. Quite frankly, I don't need that. I do it because I have purpose and intention, and I want to have fellowship with the leadership there and the board as well, so that we can make really positive change. Like, that has to be my mantra and everything that I do. So when you think about the library, well, what does a library have to do with technology and Partner for Work? Well, there's tons of people that flow in and out of the library all the time that are looking for jobs, right? And the library uses technology all the time. So how can we merge this and deliver the right product to the constituents, or to the in service to the customers at the library, to better their lives, or possibly collaborate with Partner for Work or Pittsburgh Technology Council? So there's not a lot of disconnect there. Obviously, the core competency and mission of each organization is much different, but there's some overlap too. So where do we find those hidden opportunities that are often overlooked? And I think that's where I come in and can identify that and make the right touch points and connections for execution. So all those boards do keep me busy, but I always try to sit back and see things from the 50,000 square foot view and just say, you know, where are the moving pieces so that we can make change and difference for people who really need it. So I enjoy it. And it's fun. You know, I did it in sports. So it's a lot of, you know, parallels and a lot of carryover and what I learned in my sports world to how I help in my professional life.
So let's switch a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Valence, and I'll ask Lexi on our team to go to that website. But talk about Valence, and then talk about this Boost Challenge. There's a couple of things inside of there. So this
again, it goes back to the network. Ryan Neese, you know, I was out a couple years ago at their summit. It's called the Bridge Summit, and it happens in San Francisco every year. And I went out, and Kobe Fuller, who's a general partner over at Upfront Ventures in LA, was speaking about this, and it just blew my mind because this is his passion, this is his dream. And here's Ryan Neese, former NFL player, who has a general partner from the largest VC firm in LA, and is an African-American man speaking in a predominantly white crowd beyond the athletes that are there about his vision of connecting Black entrepreneurs and Black business professionals at a way that's never happened before in our world. And it blew my mind back. And I was just like, wow, this is how we should be thinking, because there's such a disparity in the tech space and Black entrepreneurship and professionalism that needs to be connected. So he's democratizing and connecting that there and breaking down that barrier. So that's what he started. And the Boost Challenge was really to push more, to get more people, more eyeballs and more people involved of color that are entrepreneurs and business professionals to join, to work together, to talk about socioeconomic progress during this time of COVID-19 and of all the huge racial inequities that's happening. So June 10th, there's going to be just kind of a engagement, Zoom engagement that, they're going to have some leadership speak about what socioeconomic progress looks like for a Black professional and how to navigate COVID and what are the resources, how to help you. So it's going to be pretty dynamic. And I think they're going to do a series of these engagements, moving forward. But that's what the Boost Challenge really was, for me to spread it out to my network so people can see what this was germinating and was percolating, so that, we could do better.
So we can share that. We can share
Absolutely.
that with everyone.
Absolutely.
We need to spread that word for sure. That sounds like an awesome event and series of events to really get people in the know. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think Brandon has a question in there. Can you ask that, Jonathan?
Sure. So Brandon, and I want to know this as well. I think everybody else on the call, what type of tech or businesses are you most interested in for your future investments? Is there a particular area that you really get fired up about?
Yeah, I think education is a big one, and how education is really distributed and absorbed at all levels, K through 12, and in post-secondary education. How that really is, like I said, just on all levels is something I'm really interested in. But I think that how AI impacts that, it will be huge. I mean, education is just horrible, especially public education, and it's going to get turned on its head, especially what happened after COVID. So education is one. Obviously, healthcare. I mean, solving these big, huge problems. And also Wi-Fi is another big one for me. Not just 5G Wi-Fi, but how do you create a really more stronger, powerful, more democratized, spread out Wi-Fi. So thinking about futuristic stuff of how you connect people more resiliently is something I'm thinking about. So, but also I guess that's kind of far term, because there are big problems to solve. So thinking about what technology company is going to really change that is something I'm thinking about. But AI, everything AI enabled, I think of. But I've invested in fintech. I've invested in robotics, AI, ed tech, energy tech. I've kind of been across the board.
You've got quite the portfolio, man. That's exciting.
So
yeah, and healthcare tech, tonal hymns. I'm an investor in tonal and hymns.
So if people are listening on the call, or people, want to reach out to you and figure this out, should they just reach out to you through, what's your process?
Yeah, you could Twitter, Instagram. You can reach out through there.
Okay.
Okay.
So if they have ideas,
yep,
etc., that they can.
Always good. LinkedIn is always good.
Okay, that's awesome. So listen, we've had this week that the country is has a whole lot of unrest, and I'm not going to simplify it, and I'm not going to pretend like I understand and have all the answers. But you've been at this for a while. I mean, you talked about this. It's not just this week. So can you just set the table a little bit? And when we think about this these words, equity, access, entrepreneurship, what should we be doing? You've been out there on the ground for a long time.
Yeah,
What should we
equity.
be doing and what should we stop doing?
Oh, wow. Well, what should we be doing? We're going to address that first. Equity. Equity means ownership, right? Whenever you, in any aspect, right? So whatever you consider ownership, or deem ownership, or define it. So I think for me, we have to begin to think and look at people as people. For so long, African Americans have been looked at as property or just service hands, and in some cases, we've actually believed that because that has been the narrative. So, to me, it's about redefining and tearing down that barrier and that image of African Americans and Black people that they can be bought, or that they can be or just service hands. That's one. And I think the more and more you get around people of color, you start to understand where they come from, what they've experienced, how you don't experience these things, or what has happened to them. When they can articulate that story, you as a person, as a decent human being, should start to really just have some empathy and sympathy, and just really have a deep care about that, because you don't have to deal with it. So that's the first thing. It's just having deep empathy and not putting up that barrier of what you've been taught, recalibrating your mind. And because African American people are very capable, we're extremely intelligent, we're extremely sensitive, we're extremely loving, and we're very tough, and we're very resilient. And I think it's time for African Americans to understand, like, equity is ownership. Start building more into your communities. Start investing more into Black companies. Start investing more into Black ownership. That's equity. Then you build a strong financial, socioeconomic base with each other. And I think that's a powerful message to the world. That's a powerful message to your community, where you can show that you're utilizing these services with each other. And and to me, that's equity, because that's ownership. And then you kind of level the playing field. You work on the psychological side with your neighbor, and then you work on the economic side with each other. So opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
The opportunities have been, very hard to come by, to be honest. I've been blessed because of sports to be in position to have opportunity. I can't deny that. But a lot of my friends, even my dad, and my brothers and cousins and people that I know personally, they just haven't had it because of systematic issues. And a lot of people are like, well, how is that true? Why is that true? How do you know that happens to Black people? Well, laws have been set up that way. Mm-hmm. And people, like, again, it goes back to a psychology. You have to really understand that opportunities have been wiped away from this race. Like, you have to read the history, read the laws, and look at the evidence. This is not something we made up. And we're not asking you to give us an opportunity. We're just saying reverse, re-engineer, recalibrate your thinking, and recalibrate the laws. So now opportunity is level playing field. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think a lot of this comes in. So those are my thoughts on equity and opportunity, and how to visualize it, and maybe some action steps there that we can all take. Is, it starts with you, it starts with me. Right. How I engage with African Americans, how I engage with people that aren't African Americans, right, and how we all collectively do that together. I'm working with right now. I had a call with Cocopreneur. And that's I love the work that they're doing. And I said, hey, how can I be more involved? How can I start using more you know, Black services. You know, I want to start doing this, you know, because I want to put more money in black hands, you know, because obviously it's not there. And, you know, I said, here's a list. This is what I need. And she was like, okay, great. So just finding collaborative ways to work with people around you, build trust, is something we need to do. You know, it's just something we need to do.
And everyone can do that. That's
Absolutely.
something everyone can do. We can do
Everyone.
that individually. We can do that as businesses. So what should we stop doing?
Stop putting a blind eye to the systemic racism that exists and saying it doesn't matter to you because of your skin color. That's what you should stop doing. One, help and dig deep. I think the biggest thing is support nonprofits that are doing work in racial and equity education. I think that's one. Attend a racial and equity education seminar. I think that's two, because then you start to really see and get accredited one. Just don't go to one that's kind of been,
Right.
Go to one that really has a PhD, a doctor, some people who are really authentic in the work that has been doing this for years and that can come in a loving way to share some of these disparities. I think that's key, because that's education. And now again, it goes to the recalibration of your mind and who you are, because people get in their bubbles, people live in their bubbles, and they think that it doesn't matter to them, and it does matter to you. And it should matter to you. Any human being that can get murdered and killed wrongfully should matter to you if you're a decent human being. It should matter to you, and you should be compelled to do something about it. So turning the other way and saying, I live in my little bubble, that type of thinking needs to end. So that's one thing you could do. And another thing is just, I get this a lot. Well, what should I do? How can I help? What should I do? How can I help? I think investing in nonprofits that are doing the work, investing in small businesses that you believe in, trying to help that socioeconomic progress, and then volunteering. I think that's great too. Like, go to these neighborhoods, go to these places. If we can care that much about pets that we don't even see, that we know are being harmed, you can care that much about another human being that's 10 miles away from you and help them. And volunteer and make a difference in their lives. I have a great foundation. We volunteer all the time. There's a ton of great foundations in the Pittsburgh region that you can do this, and people will be glad to help. I mean, we were just with Boys and Girls Club. Lisa Palmieri is a good friend of mine. We collaborate a lot with our foundation. We were passing out masks and food over in housing authorities, because Black kids don't have masks. Black youth do not have masks. Like, nothing to cover their face, like in this crisis and pandemic, and they're being overlooked. And I recognize this as we walked around the housing authority, parents had masks, but kids didn't. I was like, this is strange to me. We passed out over 6,000 masks in 3 different cities to specifically lower income areas and to youth that don't have them. So those are things that are easy. Those are things that people can always be involved in, and just get out of your bubble, stop having your blinders on, and open your eyes and start using your resources and people around you on how you can help and make a difference and be a part of the solution and not the problem.
Yep. I think you're right. I think everyone's been asking, how can they help? I like your ideas about what not to do. I think that's pretty important. And I think that if there are ways that people are interested in helping you and your foundation, is that an avenue for people to be helpful?
100%. Okay. You can go to find me on LinkedIn or go to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I got the website is willallenfoundation.com. So, and see our work. But I always, again, there's a ton of other nonprofits that are out there too that are doing really, really good work and helping people, especially people who don't have access and resources, which are primarily minorities and lower income areas.
Well, we have reached our time with you. It has been a gift. I thank you for taking the time with us and giving us some really practical advice. It's going to take all of us to do this. This is not on you. This is on all of us.
Yeah.
And I have made a commitment that the focus on creating wealth and creating financial opportunities is really the sweet spot for the Tech Council and the tech community.
Yeah.
We can't solve everything, but we can certainly make sure that, you know, we are creating relationships with people who are building companies and selling their wares, that can be a priority for us and can be. Will, you rock. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you have been working diligently and you've just been a good egg to all of us.
Absolutely.
So on that note,
Thank you,
have
guys. Appreciate
a
it.
great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you on Monday. Be safe, and remember, it takes all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.